All right, it's 5 p.m. I'd like to call the Brimfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order for a public hearing on July 8th, 2025. Roll call for attendance, please.
Roll call, Nick,
Yes?
Sue,
Yes.
and Mike is absent.
All right, we'll forego announcements and correspondences until the board meeting. At this time, we're here for a public hearing to discuss proposed languages. So I'd like to turn the floor over to our Zoning and Economic Director, Mike Ladd. The floor is yours, sir.
Yep. The first one is going to be the temporary use permits. The zoning commission is requesting to remove or exclude mobile food units. It would be highlighted, and also adding mobile food units to the Chapter 10 definition section. So mobile food unit is any apparatus or equipment that is used to cook, prepare, or serve food, and that routinely changes or can change location and is operated from a movable vehicle or apparatus, including but not limited to motorized vehicles, trailers, and hand-propelled carts. So that definition comes right out of the Department of Commerce. So we just pretty much copied that and pasted it, and this gives the power back to the health department and fire department.
Okay. All right, so this is the proposed changes. This is our chance for the public to give feedback to the Board of Trustees on these proposed changes to the temporary use permit, section 540.00 in chapter 10 definitions. We did not have anybody sign up to speak on this, but I will open up one more time in case somebody does want to speak on this topic. We will take any comments on this topic under consideration during our board meeting at 6 p.m. All right. Hearing no public comments on the proposed changes to temporary use permits, I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
And I will second.
Roll call, Nick,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
and Mike is absent.
We are closed at 5:17 p.m. We will have our next public hearing at 5:30 p.m. right, it's 5:30 PM. I'd like to call the Brimfield Township Board of Trustees public hearing to order. Roll call for attendance, please.
Call Nick,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
and Mike is absent.
All right, we're here to discuss some changes to some existing tables. So I'm going to turn this over to our Zoning and Economic Development Director, Mike Ladd. The floor is yours.
Yep, this is the existing table that's in the book right now. Does not have all of the temporary uses for food trucks, temporary vendor sales, or anything. They just had it, when it came back from regional planning, they gave it back with one C on it for the Parks District. That's not correct. Zoning Commission corrected it, has all the permitted uses for where they're allowed, as well as the temporary vendor street, which is a conditionally permitted use within the Park District now, which is highlighted, so.
All right. Thank you for that update. We'll now open it up to the floor for anybody who signed up to speak.
No signups.
All right, one last chance if you want to talk about the changes to the tables. Speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
I will second. Roll call.
Nick,
Yes?
Sue,
Yes.
and Mike is absent.
All right, meeting closed at 5:31. We'll have our next public hearing at 5:45. 5:45 PM, I'd like to call the Brimfield Township Board of Trustees public hearing to order. Roll call for attendance, please.
Roll call Nick.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
Mike is absent.
All right, we are here for public comments on the parking and storage of vehicle and trailers. I'd like to turn the meeting now over to our Zoning and Economic Development Director, Mike Ladd.
Yep. So the existing language on this one, coming from the zoning commission, existing language as it has been for over the past 20 years, is a maximum of one boat or one unoccupied recreational vehicle may be stored in a yard of a residentially zoned property if it meets the requirements of this resolution for setbacks of structures, which means basically cannot be in the front yard at all. What the proposed language is from the zoning commission, because they listened at the public hearings, is they wanted to lessen the restrictions. So they did that by saying the following: any of the following vehicles, boat, trailer, jet ski, snowmobile, commercial vehicle, recreation vehicle, or other such vehicle may be stored in a front yard of residentially zoned property if the vehicle is stored on concrete, asphalt, or gravel surface. That's only in the front yard. We're not speaking to the rear yard or to the side. So,
And so now we're here to hear public comments on this, in support or against. And we have nobody signed up, but as usual, I will, if you could run up and sign on here real quick for me, and then you can speak. Just because we keep a record of speakers. Yeah. So just put your name for me real quick. Yep. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to give the floor to Dan Carville.
Okay, I'm to understand that the proposed language replaces the existing language, and that becomes the new language
in section B.
in section B,
Correct.
specific.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public on this topic? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
So moved.
And I will second, roll call.
Nick.
Yes?
Sue.
Yes.
And Mike is absent.
All right, we will close this meeting at 5:47 PM. At 6 PM, we will open up the regular Board of Trustees meeting. There will be a new sign-up sheet if you would like to speak at that. All right, it is 6 PM. I'd like to call the Brimfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order. Roll call for attendance,
On
please.
attendance, Sue. Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
At partial board.
All right, and I'd like everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please stay standing for a moment of silence or prayer? Thank you. All right, we'll start with announcements and correspondences. We'd like to remind the audience, if you plan on speaking during the public comment portion of this meeting, please take a moment now, if you haven't already done so, to please sign in the sign-in sheet located on the podium over, or up here, thank you, up here, so that we could have you as a speaker. Now I'll open up the floor to the board and to the department heads for any announcements or correspondences.
Trustee Mike Kostensky asked me just to make an announcement. He did have a prior scheduled family engagement that he needed to attend tonight, which is why he's not here.
All right. Any other announcements or correspondences? All right. Hearing none, we have no meeting guests scheduled for today, so I'd like to move into the meeting minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve the 6/27/2025 regular meeting.
So moved.
I will second that.
All in favor, Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the 7/7/2025 emergency meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll now entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
A second for discussion. We do have amendments to the agenda that should be noted from when they were originally posted. Under administration 2A, we have board approval to accept the resignation of Hannah Michael effective July 18th. We also have an amendment to zoning economic 2A3. Some language was lined out and updated with the correct language under B. Road department, old business went from none to Fairwood Road is open. Chip and seal project to start mid-August. Sherman Drive project to start around September. And then new business went from none to road mowing and boom mowing. They're patching some areas and coming, getting quotes for a couple side jobs.
Okay.
Are there
those-
any other amendments?
Are those agenda items or are those just meeting notes or department notes?
It's an amendment to the agenda, so that'd be talking points that we would have.
So I posted the amended agenda with all the amendments already.
Okay. So we don't need an amendment to it?
Correct, I posted it as amended already.
Okay.
I don't believe it requires a motion, confirmed, but I did post it as amended.
Are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor for the approval of the agenda as presented with the revisions.
All in favor, Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll now entertain a motion for the purchase orders.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And I'll now entertain a motion for the warrants as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, Sue.
Yes.
Nick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And we'll now move into the public comment section. We want to remind all speakers that there is a 3-minute limit per person. We thank you in advance for being here and your comments. We are here to hear comments, and we'll take that under advisement. First person up today is going to be Patty Harsham.
Good evening, I'm Patty Haryoung. I've been a resident since 1988. I retired from the Brimfield Police Department with 33 years of service. And I would like to mention that yesterday, Brimfield residents learned that there is a drastic shortage of funds in the general fund. And to the point that Brimfield Township trustees had to borrow $45,000 from emergency services to pay for payroll. So we are also facing a potential $800,000 deficit. And I have some suggestions on how to efficiently and quickly retire the potential Brimfield Township $800,000 loan and restore the general fund. We need to sell one non-essential Brimfield Township property. sell all Brimfield Township vehicles that are utilized by non-emergency township employees, do not hire an independent payroll company, allow the Portage County Library District levy, which is partially funded by the Brimfield property owners' taxes, to financially support and sustain their Brimfield branch library. Cancel all Brimfield non-essential programs and services that are supported by taxpayer dollars. Promote completing grants, sponsorships, and fundraising activities to support all Brimfield non-essential programs and services. Now, I'm a WNIR listener. I listen to the news, and I have recently found out that on a weekly basis, there are shootings and murders that are happening in Akron. As a matter of fact, 1 year ago, we had an Akron mass shooting. The victim count was 29. Unfortunately, one gentleman succumbed to his injuries, and the address was on Kelly Avenue in Akron, which is approximately 9.9 miles from this town hall building. Yesterday, I learned on WNIR News that 4 people were shot in Akron on East Exchange Street. A dozen were hit by cars at an overnight gathering outside an Akron elementary school. And thank God, no one died from this incident. But this incident also, according to Google directions, is 10 miles from this building where we're standing right now. I do highly recommend that the $45,000 loan be repaid to our emergency services, and I also recommend that no further cuts be taken from the Brimfield Police Department, the Fire Department, for shortages in the general fund. We need our police services. May God bless our brave Brimfield police officers and firefighters who walk into danger every day to protect our lives and provide services for us. Thank you very much. And honorable trustees, may I approach the bench to give you a copy of these suggestions?
Yes, that's fine. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Patty.
Thanks, Patty.
All right, next on our list of public comments is going to be Shirley Mars. Floor is yours.
Good evening, my name's Shirley Mars, and I live at 1943 Old Forge Road in Brimfield. As a taxpayer, I expect to get value for my money. Heaven knows that Brimfield's financial situation is of great concern. An area that I do not feel like the citizens of Brimfield are getting enough value is from our Parks and Recreation Department. After years of analyzing the year-end report, I keep hoping things will improve. The latest year-end report is once again dismal. Statistics clearly show that there is a serious problem with park programming. The report shows that the Parks Department held 79 total programs and broke them into 5 different categories. The first category had community events. They had 13 with an average, and they averaged 138 attendees. Secondly was the parks programs. They had, of 53 programs, 9 programs were canceled. 30 programs had between 0 and 5 attendees. 3 programs had 6 to 10 attendees. 9 programs had 11 to 20 attendees, and only 2 park programs had over 20 attendees. I find that pretty disturbing. Third was the outreach programs, where they partner with other agencies outside of Brimfield. And in reading that, I cannot help but ask, how does participating in the Reed Fest summer celebration in Ravenna benefit our community? Fourth was the summer camps. There were 3 camps with an average attendance of 11. I believe that there are 4 camps planned for this year with a 15-person cap on each camp. Summer is the best time to have free programs for kids because that's when they need them most. But as of now, the only free programs planned for July and August are senior yoga classes. The last category was contest, of which there were 3, a photo contest, Halloween and Christmas house decorating contest, with an average of 163 engagements, which included the people voting. It was very odd to me that someone named Anonymous won the photo contest. It seems clear to me that there is not much of a recreation component to our Parks and Recreation Department, and the bottom line is that in a year, we spent a total of $140,000 on salary and benefits for 2 park employees, plus the cost of a car for their use, and the cost of using the road crew for park maintenance. To me, that is not a good value. So here are my suggestions. I think, I've been saying this for years, you really need to form a volunteer parks board. You need to have a member from different organizations to come together and work together to govern the board, the park department. You need to reduce staffing. You need to rethink poorly attended programs and stop spending time and resources on them. You need to consider donating Messner Acres to the Portage Parks District, where they have staff and resources to
We're at our
properly
3-minute
assess
point.
the preserve.
We thank you for your time.
And I
today.
have a few more, but thanks.
Thank you. All right, number 3 is gonna be Sharon Grasser.
My name is Sharon Grazer. We live at 3531 Keswick Drive. I think I have more comment than anything. I recently was made aware of what I call robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think there's plenty of places that you could somehow locate this money instead of robbing these things that we so desperately need. Our fire and our police are very important in this day and age. And it's actually a question, this business about the trailers and whatever, and we don't have that. It really doesn't affect us a whole lot, but you see it around us. We live in Beechcrest allotment. Who would enforce this if it even went through? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. All right, next would be Earl Horning.
Hello, I'm Earl Horning. I own Pep's Car Wash. Kind of a show and tell because it's right there. I've been there since 1997, and I thought I was a good neighbor for many years. You don't see me much. I haven't been to very many meetings because I'm just not that type. I get a little nervous speaking in front of everybody, but the issue I have right now is the denying access to the public street for my property. This is Brimfield Square Drive. It's Township Road 473. During in 1997, the fire department or the township added on administration. At that time, they did a vacation on part of Brimfield Square Drive. It used to be a square, and it used to go out to 43, somewhat of a circle. When they added on to the fire department in 97, they did a vacation of the street, and they vacated from 43 out to here. But that continues to be a township road. The reason they didn't vacate all of it, at the time, the powers to be, it was important access to my property, and at the time there was a home right there. Since then, the township had bought the house, but that was a private property where in between these big trees, and then my property. That is my legal access. That's the public road. Denying me access to a public road, I see it to be a problem, personally. But I understand why it was done, and I get it. I just don't think there was much thought put into it. During the construction of the new fire department, my property, the ingress and egress through the plaza, and my property was used pretty consistently in the beginning, when they were demoing, lowering grade, the heavy equipment came across and unloaded. I have pictures. And I approached the board in 2001 in the beginning. And they put a fence up and it slowed down. But the contractor, it was like falling on deaf ears. They continued to deliver equipment, supplies, unloading, skid steers, my asphalt. There was damage, and nothing was done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments today. All right. We have nobody else on the sheet for public comments? Yeah, we'll open it up. We ask that you please sign up. There you go. Just for our record. It's okay. I know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna try it later. All right, next on our list for public comments is going to be Tom Johnson.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Johnson. I would like to speak for a moment for Mr. Horning. He kind of ran out of time. He's a good friend of mine, and he has some problems with the gate that's there. I believe it inhibits some of his business. And again, we're a pro-business, small business community. So I believe the consideration before the board should be whether or not we continue to have that barrier in place that affects Mr. Horning's business. There's some options I could come up with and recommend. We could put a speed bump there to slow down the traffic. I'm aware that the firemen throughout the day use that area to exercise as a track. I understand the seriousness and the concern of the community and their safety as cars come through there at some speed. We could also ask the police department and to patrol that so that we put up no cut-through signs. And if we have an incident or something out here in the intersection, have that under consideration, that we have some patrols through the neighborhood here to make sure that automobiles and so forth aren't cutting through that plaza into our parking lot here at the township and then exiting out on 43. So I think a combination of considerations could come to play here, and I think we're a bunch of smart people here. We can come up with a lot of good ideas and solutions how we could fix that so we remedy Mr. Horning's problem that he has. It's impacting his business. Again, we're a small township, and we do everything we can for our small businesses. So I believe that is an issue that can easily be addressed here by the board. I don't think the costs are going to be outrageous. A little asphalt for a speed bump, a sign, posting no cut through in the right of way, and we can easily solve that for one of our small businesses in the community. Thank you.
For your comments. Next up, Dave Durnan.
Good evening, everybody. About a year ago, I live in Portage Commons, by the way. We did get our roads repaved, which they were desperately needed to be done. I guess my question is, it's probably more to Dave than anybody else. We have a lot of cracks already and some spalling here and there. Checking to see if that might be on the agenda to take care of that maybe this year before winter. They dumped a lot of salt on it last winter. I don't know, you guys must have a lot of salt. We got a lot of salt in those new roads. So I'm asking if there'd be a way we could get those roads sealed as soon as possible. I know you got a lot of budget issues, but I had another question too. On the fiscal officer position, what does that pay?
$33,000.
How much?
33,000.
Okay.
It's based off the budget of the township.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, John. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you for your time. All right, last call for public comments. All right, hearing none. Pass this down to the record.
One more.
Oh, one more. Yeah, it's a new sheet. We gotta do a new sheet for each section.
Dan Carville, 1473 Brimfield Drive. Reference to Mr. Horning's question, I guess I'm wondering, how do we make sure that this gets into the agenda and it's getting attention instead of just comments? What's the procedure?
So we take his comments under consideration.
Okay, under consideration, and do you report back, or how do we?
So during public comments, we, as the board, our process is we would just take all the comments into consideration, and then we talk about them after public comments are done.
And then after that, but again, I think it's pretty critical if you're impeding his business. And the urgency, I think, is urgent. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Any other public comments for tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll move into safety concerns. Is there any safety concerns to be brought to the attention of the board? All right, we're hearing none. We'll move into the business portion of our meeting. We'll open this up to the police department. Chief, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I just have a couple of informational items for the board this evening. Just a bit of feedback on our Filler Cruiser event we did at Walmart back on Saturday, June 28th. We ended up raising a little over $500 for the Brimfield community covered that day, so it was a good day. Weather was a little hot, so I don't know if people were out and about so much, but we were able to get a donation in place to help out our local food cupboard, and appreciate everybody that stopped by for that event. Second items are still waiting for the records disposal piece to take place for the police department. Still waiting on the updated RC2 to come back from the state, so once we get that back, we'll proceed with the records disposal over at the PD. Under a new business update, kindergarten safety school is coming up once again on Wednesday, July 30th through Friday, August 1st. That'll be at Victory Baptist Temple, as it's been in prior years, and I appreciate Pastor Wetzel opening that up for us. So looking forward to spending a few days with the kids there for kindergarten safety school on that day. So that's all I have for you this evening.
All right, do we have any questions for the police department?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move into the fire department. The floor is yours, Chief.
Okay, thank you. Mine is a very quick new business update also. We're still preparing our entry-level firefighters, which we started the process about a year ago. We ended up hiring 3 entry-level firefighters. Those are high school kids that graduated high school that have no training, and we put them through all the training, and then they come on with us as full-time firefighter paramedics. We were able to hire 2 local kids and 1 non-local kid, but very good options for us. With that being said, they're on track to do their August start as full-time firefighters for us, and then they will go to the academy at the end of August. Piggybacking onto the same thing, we're still on track to be approximately 300 calls ahead this year than what we were last year. That seems to be a trend over the last few years of our increase. And just to piggyback on that, to say that just we need to keep adding firefighters to our staff to keep up with those kind of call volumes. So, just informational.
Do we have any questions for the fire department?
No.
All right. Thank you so much for your report.
Yep.
Moving to administration. Holly, the floor is yours.
No items for old business. For new business, I'm requesting board approval to accept the resignation of Hannah Michael. She is the Parks Assistant, effective July 18th, 2025. Hannah's last day work will be July 18th. At this point, we will not move forward in backfilling her position.
Okay, I would like to move to accept her resignation.
I'd like to second that.
And I just want to state Hannah has been a great employee. I mean, great support role there in the Parks Department. when she gave me a resignation, I said, what are we gonna do about safety school? Because Hannah was the one running around with the kids and chasing them and always having a good time. So she's been a very valuable resource for us. We're excited for her new opportunity and wish her nothing but the best.
I will say that my interactions with her and then comments from the public have been very supportive. I get a lot of positive feedback from her, so she will be missed. And on behalf of the board, Hannah, I'd like to thank you for your service here with the board and with Brimfield Township. It was much appreciated.
I would say with Hannah, she has a college degree she's very professional. And I watched her with the children, and she couldn't get enough hugs. And that's definitely going to be missed. And I just appreciate all of her energy that she's put into it. And really, I know that whatever she chooses to do from here, she'll always remember us.
Okay, all in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And that's all I have.
Is there any questions for administration? All right, hearing none, we'll move into zoning and economic development. Mike Ladd, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, thanks, Nick. Zoning fees to date are $42,242.85. No old business, new business. I need board approval on a few items here. We had public hearings prior to this. The first one is board approval is needed on a text amendment changes to zoning resolution section 540 temporary use permits to temporary use permits excluding mobile food units, and also to chapter 10 definitions to include mobile food unit, any apparatus or equipment that is used to cook, prepare, or serve food, and that routinely changes or can change location and is operated from a movable vehicle or apparatus, including but not limited to motorized vehicles, trailers, and hand-propelled carts. I did speak with Mike Ostensky on this. I know he's not here tonight, but he is in favor of all of the zoning changes tonight.
So I will entertain a motion for the approval of the text amendment changes to zoning resolution section 54000 temporary use permits.
So moved.
All right, I will second for discussion. All right, let's go through our normal checklist. Mike Ladd, was this all the meetings duly advertised?
Yes,
All right, and this went to regional planning for feedback?
it did.
Okay, and was there any comments from regional planning?
Regional planning, it was actually a different amendment that went to it. This is at the time when they were looking at limiting 2 vendors per lot.
Okay.
It did pass through regional planning, came back, there was a public hearing at zoning commission listened to all of it was a stacked meeting. And zoning commission listened to their concerns and tweaked it to exclude mobile food units.
Okay. All right. We also held a public hearing this morning. We had no additional comments on any changes, either supporting or not supporting this. I was in attendance at that zoning meeting. There was a lot of conversation about this and wanting to reduce the mobile food units from being inside of that standard, reducing the restrictions. I think this is a great move. I think it's good for the public. I think this is what we've heard from the community. So I'm happy to see where we are today. Do you have any comments on it too?
No, I've walked through the whole thing from the very beginning.
So this will remove mobile food units from any of the temporary use permits moving forward with the passage of this resolution. Is there any other comments on this resolution? Anything, please, fire your concerns. All right. Hearing none, roll call for acceptance of the text amendment change.
On approval, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, before you go to the next one, what is the cooling off period on all the zoning changes?
30 days.
Okay, thank you.
Second one I have is approval is requested for change to Appendix E, H14 of Brimfield Township zoning resolution from temporary uses. Food trucks as conditional use in Park District to temporary uses, food trucks, vendor sales as permitted uses in the zoning districts PR, TC, HC, IC, LI, and HI, and add Appendix E, H15 temporary vendor streets as a conditional use in the PR district. So this basically is the matrix. We have a table in the back of the zoning book, and it allows for uses to be and where certain things are. For example, hotels, what districts they go in. This is the same thing, just allowing them to go in certain districts.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the requested for change to Appendix E, H14 of Brimfield Township zoning resolution from temporary use of food trucks as conditional use in Parks District to temporary use food trucks and vendor sales permitted use in zoning districts PR, TC, HC, IC, LI, and HI.
So moved.
All right, second for discussion. So this will allow these things to be permitted in all those districts then?
That is correct. And then the only thing that's a conditionally permitted is the temporary vendor street, if you guys decide to go with it within the Park District.
And then they could not operate food vendors in residential areas
For sale.
for sale?
So if you're having a birthday party, something like that, that's different.
So if the HOA does a block party or whatever? they
That's
can
right.
still operate.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
No.
All right, and these meetings were duly advertised?
Yes,
Regional planning, what was their response to this?
approved.
Okay, and was there any comments or concerns at the zoning commission?
Not on this item, no.
All right. Hearing nothing else, roll call, please.
All in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Third one I have is approval is needed on text amendment change to zoning resolution 510.09B from a maximum of one boat or one unoccupied recreational vehicle may be stored in a yard residential zone property if it meets the requirement of this resolution for setbacks of structures. We're changing that to any of the following vehicles: boat, trailer, jet ski, snowmobile, commercial vehicle, recreation vehicle, or other such vehicle may be stored in the front yard of residentially zoned property if the vehicle is stored on concrete, asphalt, or gravel surface. And we're not speaking on the side yard or the rear yard at all, just the front yard. I think that's gonna help. There was one lady who had a question about who's gonna enforce this within Beechcrest. That'd be me, as well as my assistants. We are having some trouble with some of the areas of Beechcrest, and this is one thing that's gonna help us with that. And then, once again, Mike Ostensky read this, and he was in favor of it as well.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the approval needed on text amendment change to zoning resolution 510.09B.
So moved.
I'll second for discussion. Duly advertised before all the meetings.
Yes.
What was regional planning's response to this?
This was approved. It was tweaked a little bit there as well, and then
Okay.
came back. It's changed like 3 or 4 times, but ultimately, this is the best scenario zoning commission came up with.
Okay. And zoning commission received feedback and responded to the feedback on this?
On this last one, no.
Okay, there's no feedback on this one.
Yep. Other than one comment at the public hearing, just making sure it was a replacement of section B.
So just for clarification, currently, the way the standard stands is we can have one boat or one unoccupied recreational vehicle in a yard of a residentially zoned property, correct?
Correct.
This proposed change changes that and says you can have as many as you want as long as it's on concrete, asphalt, or gravel surface.
In the front yard.
In the front yard.
Correct.
And this does not deal with restrictions to side or back yards.
It does not.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't become a junkyard. Right.
Okay. All right, is there other questions on this? So I think there was a lot of miscommunication on this one, and I think hopefully the residents better understand this is actually less restrictive than it was before. The standard that had been here for many, many years was more restrictive. This opens it up, so. All right, roll call for acceptance.
On approval, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
All right, are there any questions for zoning or economic development? All right, hearing none, we'll move into road department. Dave, floor is yours.
All right, Nick, just some FYIs today. Fairwood Road is open now in Beechcrest allotment. They did a pipe replacement for a gas line pipe. The chip and seal project to start mid-August. At first, it was supposed to be the end of July, beginning of August, but because of weather, they pushed it back till the middle of August. The Shermanwood Drive project to start in September. That's from the pre-con meeting, so we're looking pretty good for that project. It's just some new business. We're doing some road mowing and boom mowing to push back some of the trees and grass in wooded areas. We've been out dirt patching some of the areas. I have Helming Excavating giving me some quotes on a few projects of deep pipes that we have crossovers that we need. We don't have the equipment to do it, so they are looking into giving me some quotes. I haven't got them yet. So, and one other thing I just got tonight, starting July 21st, this is from the Portage County Engineers, July 21st, The bridge deck replacement over Plum Creek on Sunnybrook Road in Kent between Howe and Malloy will be closed for 4 weeks. And that concludes my report.
Will there be any emergency through traffic on that? or is it gonna be completely
It'll
closed?
be a complete shutdown at the bridge itself. And that's in the city of Kent. The
Okay.
bridge itself is in Kent.
Okay,
So,
so we good with fire and police?
Yeah,
Okay, just wanna make sure it gets passed along. All right, is there any questions for Rose? All right, hearing none, we'll move into Parks and Recs. Cassie, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, first, I just wanted to also thank Hannah for her service to the Parks Department. She's been a really great Parks assistant, and we're definitely going to miss her. So, but I just had one item for the board this evening. On the 27th, I went to the community center, and the generator was running. I called J&J Plumbing and had Ohio Edison come out, and it turns out we have a break in the underground electrical wires at the community center, and we currently only have one leg of power going into the building. So we're currently unable to run our HVAC or refrigerator, and we have canceled all rentals for the foreseeable future until we can get this repaired. I had OTS Electric and J&J Plumbing give me quotes for the repairs, and also giving us quotes. So they gave us quotes to install new 50 to 100 amp conduit, and also quotes to upgrade our service to 200 amp service. Over the years, we have had some issues overloading the circuits. It's an older building with older wiring. Probably once a month, I get a phone call. Somebody needs to flip a breaker because they've plugged in too many crock pots or something like that. So, so the quotes I have included in my report. So after reviewing these quotes, it would be my recommendation to go with OTT Electrical Services. Quote to upgrade the service to 200 amp. At a cost of $7,413.86, using NOPEC Energized Community Grant Funds. Holly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have, how much do we have left in the fund?
Currently, currently we have 23,000, excuse me, 23,296,000 in NOPEC funds. We are requesting reimbursement on the garage doors and siding here, but we'll still have a large amount left.
And some of those funds are expiring this year, correct? I think.
That's correct.
Yes.
I will, for conversation, I'll entertain a motion for the approval to use Auto Electrical Services to upgrade existing service to 200 amp at a cost not to exceed $7,413.86, utilizing NOPEC Energy Community Grant Funds.
So moved.
I'll second for discussion.
And let me give one correction, just because I read the wrong number. So our funds available for disbursement from NOPEC is $64,535.51. And our expiring balance for these funds, so these funds expire in November 30th of this year. Our expiring remaining funds would be $19,036.51.
Is that on top of the $64,000 figure, or is that collectively?
That is collectively, that is part of the 64. Now, most of the 19 will be used up by the siding and garage doors, so we should be pretty close. We also have other items that we could submit even outside of this.
John, from the fiscal office standpoint, is this NOPEC money available to be used for this service upgrade so that we can get the community center back reopened for rentals?
It is. We got it. We had money carry over from this year going into next year as well, so, yes, that meets the qualifications.
Okay. What is the estimated timeline for OPT to do this work?
They said they need to pull permits and everything, but they think they can get it done early next week.
Both from Parks and Fiscal, is there any other concerns, pitfalls that we might need to be aware of? Are we supportive of this? Is this a piece that we want to go with using NOPEC funds for?
There were, we'd had requests in the past to try to fill NOPEC requests in, and we've kind of exhausted a lot of our eligible expenditures of that. I don't see any reason why this couldn't be used. I mean, it's a needed request, but we've kind of run out of doors to fix and windows and do all that qualify for the grant, so.
But we don't want to lose out on the money since. it's-
No, so we have to spend it or we lose it, but,
Okay.
but there's nothing pending out there that's of any more importance than that is.
Department heads, is there anything else we need to know about?
Yeah, just as a brief follow to that, so I do have one piece that we could probably utilize a portion of that funds for the AC unit, just an additional unit for the building, to kind of supplement that system. I can follow up next week with some information on that, so.
John, do you know if is NOPEC going to continue funding the grant, or is it drying up after this year? Have you heard?
They were sending out requests for that money for 26. I believe Holly filled out that information going forward.
Okay, so we still have more money coming in next year then?
Well,
Okay.
yep.
All right. Well, this is going to be grant money that we have available, and we do need to get the community center open so we can get rentals. How far out have you closed rentals already?
We're going week by week, so just through this weekend.
Okay.
And just to confirm, it is listed in the ideas for grant projects. Any electrical upgrades are valid and eligible for reimbursement.
Okay, good. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to enter into a contract with Odd Electrical for the service upgrade to 200 amps at the community center using NOPEC energized community grant funds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
All in favor, Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, that was all I had.
All right, IT. I do not see anything for IT today. We're good? Got thumbs up back there. All right, cemetery, I didn't see any deeds. All right, that'll move us into fiscal. Sitting on the agenda is old business, budget adjustment, and general fund. John, do you have any business for us today?
I do have some things to say. Actually, and I hope this doesn't sound the wrong way because I am retiring and I'm hoping that Brimfield Township continues the same way that it can be in the future because I live here. So, and I know one of the candidates is here, one of the people for fiscal office. I'm not sure who the other, people were, but kind of just to give everybody a heads up, and I know I'm the devil on the internet and Facebook and all that stuff. The fiscal officer's job is to determine if there was money available in the counts that were out there. They don't have anything to do with the spending of those dollars within those funds. Their job is to simply tell them that there's money available. Okay, so and there's department heads at each department. The building, which is our big, great building that we have for this community for years to come, we had, and I just want to make sure everybody understands, we had $637,000 worth of change orders for that building. Some of those building changes were that we had bad soil out there that had to be replaced. There are different things on the roofing. There were multiple things that were out there that were additional costs to that building. That building was estimated at 8.2, and we're in that $8.9 million range. But there were $673,000, I think I said 73, $673,000 in change orders for that building. I go through the community and, we work with that. Fiscal officers have other jobs as well because I had mentioned 33,000. You can't live a family and do all that stuff. You have to have another job. So we have people at the department that handle all those. The budgets that are internal, and I know it's been brought up in the past that we are short in the general fund and that we don't want to take away from our safety forces, and I 100% agree with that. But I've been here for 19 years. I was asked to be the fiscal officer after Mr. Sprague had retired. I'd run multiple times. I'm not an accountant, never was an accountant, never played to be an accountant. Did the best I could do for Brimfield Township. If you honestly ask all the departments, every year, this is the same situation that we're in. Every single year. It's just the general funds point this time. Fire's been in the hole, roads has been in the hole, police has been in the hole. We've worked together in the past to figure out how those things would be fixed. That just for the new and upcoming fiscal officer that comes into this is a very unthankful job that you get. You do the best you can do at it. I'm an insurance salesman. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a building project director. That's not what I do. So I just kind of want to make that clear so everybody understands those thoughts. And the internet's the devil. I'm sorry, but it just allows people to go out and say whatever they want with unfounded facts, comments of anything, and they don't know the whole story. So, and again, I've always made my office very open to anybody that wants to come talk and go through that. And I know some people have taken me up on that, but I'm available for the fiscal office as well, and for anybody that's coming in as the fiscal officer. I do want to correct one comment that was made out there before, and I'm sorry, I deleted my Facebook account because I can't take it anymore, but I'm here until August, and I'm hoping that there's a person that's hired, and I will help them. The point that I made before, if the person doesn't get hired until October, I can't come back and help and run, I've got another company that I run. Made it seem like I was just running away. But I live in Brimfield Township, and I've done this for 19 years, and I've done the best I could do at it. Yep, everybody makes mistakes some places, somebody do that, so I'm just saying we did all the best that we could do. So for the new fiscal officers coming in, please never forget that. So that's all I had to say. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I kind of want to go through some of this, John, since you're here. I think we can have this discussion today as we try to figure out where we stand. First, can you help clarify on the letter that you sent to the board that the original contract was $8.2 million, approved change orders is $673,000. When I add up the change orders that were listed in here, are there additional change orders? Or
There are. Bob didn't send them all over to me. I took his total sheet from the very end of it.
Okay, because I was like, I took what you gave me, and it came to 276, and I'm like, that doesn't add up to 670.
Yeah, the ones he sent me, he didn't have all of them included in there, but he had the last total page, which shows the 8.2 and then the 673,000. That was the last change order that's out there. So those that are out there don't have all of them that are in there, because I didn't get them from Bob. Because every one of those comes with like 100 pages attached to each one of those things, and he sorted those and sent them over. So I put what he sent me over
So
there.
the bottom part, so the letter doesn't include everything.
It does not, but the total is correct.
But the total's correct.
Mhm.
Okay, that helps.
But I just kind of put that out there so you could kind of see, so everybody would see. And as I mentioned before, I mean, it's not this board's fault either that we have bad soil. It's not our fault that we had COVID. I know people would complain, but there was multiple factors out there that no one could have controlled. If anybody here in this room would have been a trustee or a fiscal officer, they'd had the same problem. So,
All right, let's go to general fund for a minute.
Sure.
So the number I got from your staff was that expected expenses is $562,000, which would take us through February 28th of 2026. Expected revenue is $524,000, takes us through February 28th of 2026. With that said, that's a $37,000 shortfall to the administrative fund.
mhm.
Does that sound about right where we're headed for this, projecting for this? Because I'm just trying to get a projection so that we can make some decisions so that we can balance the budget moving forward. I think that's all I've been trying to do since May.
Sure, and it is. I mean, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but that's about it. We're real close in the general fund, and I had said that for the last couple of years, that we've been very, very close in the general fund. And some of the ideas that we had talked about in the past, when the police or the fire or the roads had been behind in, budget dollars low on their end, we would pull expenditures back from them that were responsibilities of the police department, like their electric or their cleaning service or any of those. We would pull those back into the general fund and pay those out of there. One of the options that I gave you was to push all those back. It's not taking away from police, fire, and roads. It's just actually giving them all their bills to make it easier on the general fund. We actually just lost an employee too, so that changes the whole story as well.
Well, yeah, so the estimation on that with the resignation was
25,000 or so.
29, I worked it out to 29,000, because it would run August through February.
Sure.
So that takes that shortfall from 37 to 7,000.
Yep.
Estimated shortfall right
Well, and just so you know, with those numbers that are out there, I do not trend forward the JED taxes.
now. Okay.
So the JED taxes are actually increasing in the second half here, so they go half of the year. I never trend forward on those because I never want to give everybody this big bucket of money and say that we had it and one of our companies in town went out of business and we didn't collect that much. So I always short that amount. What happens is if we do collect that, because we're cash accounting here, what would happen is we could go back to the auditors and say, hey, we have additional monies and we can expend those dollars if we needed to. There were cuts that we're making also to the Brimfest, which I had mentioned before, and there were things at the park that we needed to make decisions on. We've been short for a couple years. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie to you that we play a shell game every once in a while to kind of make it through to make sure that everybody gets a paycheck. I mean, we do the best we can do to make sure that our police, fire, roads, admin staff don't go home without a paycheck. Honestly, if I have to stick Ohio Edison for a month, I stick Ohio Edison for a month so I can pay my employees. So that's kind of how we do it. But yeah, that's a close number, Nick.
So would it be fair for us as the board to ask, number one, that we put a cap on some payments? So I know travel is a piece that we talked about canceling, make sure there's no travel for administrative staff through the end of 2025. IT projects being put on hold. Could we also, is there a way, John, that we can put a cap on attorney fees? Meaning we could say, hey, we have X amount right now. Once it hits that, then it's got to come back to the board, because I think that's an area that costs us a lot of money.
We've spent a boatload of money on attorneys in the last couple of years. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Is that something that you would take as a motion from the board to then put that cap in place and then have to come back from us?
I mean, it's the board's decision on how we want to go in regards to options and choices and doing all that. Those are great ideas in regards to, I mean, we spend a lot of money on attorney fees. Unfortunately, sometimes though, we need attorney fees because we have an attorney situation coming up and then we have to, but you know what? Maybe some of those things we curve back a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm just saying. Once it hits the cap, it comes back to the board for discussion about why we're there, and then we have a better control of that piece.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll come back to that, because we might have to amend the agenda on some of these.
Also, some of those things, just so you know, on the revenue thing out there, Nick.
Yes.
I do not put any increases in zoning, so fees or any of that kind of stuff. I just take what the last year was. This year, there's more money coming in than we had in the past, so that money's gonna be over what our expected amount is. So I don't know if you got paid for the thing down the street yet by Outpost?
There's a ton of stuff that have been paying.
Yeah, so we're gonna get a boatload of extra money that's gonna go into the general fund for that. That was not expected. I mean, well, it was expected, but it was not counted on in the budget. Because I didn't want to expect it and then not have it show up, yet we have all these projects going to, that's how that's set up.
Okay. ADP, I know, has been a big piece. I'm not a big supporter of ADP, but I also would say, while cancellation of that should be a consideration, I'd rather wait until we have a new fiscal officer. And I've talked to two CPAs that are not applying for this position, but have just given me feedback on where the township stands looking at the finances. And they say ADP might be a fit, might not. They wouldn't move on that until that CPA or whoever we hire comes in and they can evaluate it. So I think ADP needs to be on that list of question marks, but let's hear back from. I would hate to change the goalpost with a new incoming fiscal officer and then him say, well, no, I need this. It needs to be done this way.
I agree with that. And I'm willing to help hire that new fiscal officer and make sure they understand the whole job. I just want to make sure it's done. I want to make sure that they're not given a bad start. I don't want to make sure that they come in here not knowing all that they need to expect. So I would like those decisions to be in their hands. I've had those decisions for 19 years. That's too long. But the ADP, just so, again, the one biggest concern I have with the ADP is that the current situation that we have right now is all manual entry, which causes errors. And one of the big reasons that we were moving to an ADP type program was so that we could eliminate errors and eliminate actual staff absentee or staff, people not being here, fiscal officer not going to be here. The payroll system is very, very difficult to do. I'd hate to put that new fiscal officer in charge of all that and have to run payroll. It's a big giant pain. So it is a costly feature, but I feel that there's needs for that. I would think that there would be other things out there that aren't as important, I guess, as that.
Okay. All right. John, I sent an email to you in your office and to the business manager. There's an estimated in the fire budget, when I started to look at the fire budget and the numbers from 2021 forward, I'm looking for clarification on $1.1 million in expenses from 2191 special levy for construction costs. Why did we spend $1.1 million out of the 2191 special levy fund when we had, which is just the fire special levy fund, when we had a USDA fund? And we've exhausted the USDA fund, which would be $8.2 million. So where did this money go? Like, what's going on with that? I don't understand why there's $1.1 million spent out of fire and 8.2 out of the USDA fund.
Well, one thing that I was, and I haven't gotten that back yet from the staff over there, and I've been busy myself this week, but I'm trying to figure out who those purchase orders were and who requested them. I don't request purchase orders. I don't request any. They all come, I approve the purchase orders when they come in or make sure that there's funds available. But all those expenditures had to come from somewhere, so I was trying to figure out where they were coming from, what things were actually building or fire department or admin non-related to the building. We were trying to break those out. I know there was one, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know for certain it was not a building construction situation. So trying to figure out those and who requested all those. The money, just so you know, the money didn't go anywhere. I've never, you look through every audit that I have out there. There's clerical errors that are on our audits, just like anyone, when you run thousands of transactions, there's gonna be clerical actions. There's never been $1 missing from Brimfield Township's money. Never.
I'm not saying there's money missing. I'm
No,
just
I
trying to
understand.
figure
I just
out-
wanted to make that point because there's, people throw comments out all over the place, but.
I'm just trying to figure out, did the project end up being $10 million? Because so we spent 8.2 million in USDA funds, and we spent 1.1 million in 2191 fire special levy funds for the construction project. Like, that doesn't add up to 8.9, right? I'm just trying to figure out why that is that way.
We need to think of 8.2, we actually need to think of 8.2 plus $673,000 in change for orders, so
Right.
8.9.
Yep.
So those numbers what would have happened is it would have all gone to the USDA loan until it ran out of money. So that's why they're coming back saying, hey, we need all the rest of it. It was the retainage money that we held back to make sure that they actually finished the project. Now a portion of that needs to get paid forward. A lot of those expenses could have been passed through that to make it over. And then I don't know if all those expenses that you're talking, I saw that list. I'm waiting for Kirsten to get the list back to me of who.
I had
there
the
were
chief
4
go
years
through
worth.
all his purchase orders, and what was the total amount of purchase orders that you requested?
100,000.
So it was 100,000, so we're still at $1 million.
Do we know who put the other ones out there?
They weren't in his files according to him.
Okay.
Like, and I don't know, that's why I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand.
That's why I was trying to figure out, because I don't write any purchase orders, I just prove that the money's there. So those came from another area to request those funds, so until I knew where those funds were requested, I guess I don't know the answer to that, Nick. I don't know how to give you an accurate answer to that. I sent an email off to Kirsten, it didn't go through to her on Friday for some reason, so I sent it over to her again on Monday, and I haven't gotten anything back from her. So,
Okay.
because she was doing payroll today as well, so it's a busy weekend. Trustee weeks are busy, for her especially.
Right. So we're still waiting to find out about the 1.1.
Yeah, I mean, all those were for 4 years, so we have to
Yeah.
figure out where all those came from. I mean, there were some QCI charges in there, back there, and there was another company that we had in there as well. It wasn't QCI.
No,
it
there
was
wasn't QCI wasn't in there.
Was it PSI?
Yeah, I think they were doing groundwork for us.
Yeah, but there was a lot of money from them. But that was when we had bad soil out there that they had to get rid of. But I don't know. I'll have to get back with Kirsten when she gives me those. I can tell you exactly where those came from and what they were for and why they were requested.
275 million, or 275,000, we were going to make a payment to Rycon for back on June 29th.
Yep.
We had the money in the account according to you, but then we didn't have the money and we received a JED check before it came in, then we unreceived the JED check and didn't send the payment. Now the 275 is still sitting out there needing to be paid.
We're just waiting on the check to come through.
We know. Then you said in the last meeting, USDA told us not to make any more payments. So did USDA tell us not to make more payments, or do we need to make this payment when it comes in?
They did not want us to make a half payment, if I remember correctly. Holly, is that what they responded to you on that? Is that we didn't want to make a half payment to them?
They could not release the remainder of their funds until we issued the full payment. So let's just say we owed 500,000 and they still have 10,000. We would have to pay 490 for them to release the 10,000.
We couldn't pay the 275 and they wouldn't release the 10,000.
But we can still pay the 275 to Rycon when those JED funds become available.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why we couldn't. It's going to be owed to them. I guess
because I guess the other question then becomes is, do we really have the money, the 275, meaning in the fire fund, or is the fire fund owed $1 million back yet? Because we spent $1 million out of the fire fund on top of the USDA fund.
I guess that's a question. I mean, how much of that $673,000 in change orders were the fire department? And if they were the fire department, why does anybody owe them money back? Because it was their building. it would come out of their dollars. I don't know why it
So
would
have
have
we
to come out of the
done
general
that?
fund.
Because I asked for that back at the beginning of May. That's what started this whole thing. In May, you said, hey, I need $800,000.
Sure.
And then it was, hey, I need $100,000 to cover the general fund shortfall. And that started the questions, and here we are on July 8th, like, I'm finally getting a number of, all right, we're closer to $30,000 shortfall, not $100,000.
Well,
Have we worked on that since May to say these are the fire station costs, these are the admin costs, so that we know what that split is, so we can start to make these determinations sooner than
well,
later?
those lists on those change orders tell you exactly what they were.
Okay.
So I'm not a construction guy, so I don't know what a lot of those things mean in there. But I guess if you were a construction guy, you could look and say, oh, that was fixing the roof on the fire department, or just making it, putting a fire pole over there. I don't know.
So
But
what's the
that was-
plan to settle that, I guess is the question, like, how do we settle this?
Well, what we need to do first, I need to figure out where that other money went from, who requested those purchase orders and what those were for, and why they were spent. Then at that point, I mean, we can always break that down and say, you know what, out of that $673,000 in change orders, 500,000 of it was the fire department. I mean, I don't know if that's the right number, it could be reversed. But at that point, we could say, why do we owe the fire department any money? I mean, we're all Brimfield Township employees in Brimfield Township as a whole, but we built this building for the fire department, and if it had overruns that were out of control of everybody else, I mean, I don't know why they would come to the general fund having to owe that money back to the, I mean, there's expenditures. Nobody thought that he was gonna spend all that money, nobody thought we were gonna be over that much. We got a budget of $8.2 million that was given to us. And again, we went out to bid, we went out to engineers or architects, that's their job. I don't do that for a living, so.
So the 8.2, was that, 8.2, did that include the 400,000 that the fire department had put in there, or was 400,000 on top of that? The fire department
It was the
had-
390 to cover expenditures if something came up before the loan was finalized. So if they had found, we did have a problem in PEP, it was Twitchell's house, where you're sitting at, that was back here, that got imploded, and we actually had an issue with some of the stuff back there. There was a huge big tree, and there was a refrigerator, I think, or I don't remember, Craig, but there was things underground. That money was set out there to cover those expenditures before the loan was finalized and everything was done while we were getting it all together. That was what that was for. We didn't spend any of that money right off the bat. We did have that $165,000 that we had to settle 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whatever it was. And we still, and I mean, I guess that's still a concern of mine. We were promised that $165,000 was being given back to us. You know, that it was gonna be another one of the, contractors that was paying that money back. So, and I know that that number is 800,000, and I hate that that number's out there. That was their worst case scenario. The number's in the $500,000 range, in that ballpark. And we don't know if we're getting $165,000 back from somebody else that owes us for issues that they had on the building. But, so we'll just have to go by each one of those and point out exactly where that money came from and figure out where it came from.
So is your plan to put this together before your retirement, or is this gonna be on the incoming fiscal officer to start to go through all this?
Well, yes and no. I was hoping we'd have a fiscal officer here so I could show them how to do all that stuff. I have no problem training them on how everything works and explaining how all the processes work, because there's a lot of stuff that's out there. I don't want to put anything in anyone's hands that are the new fiscal officer coming forward. I'll make a report, but I'm not gonna say push and do this and change this in August after I'm gone. I don't want to put that on the new fiscal officer's back. So I will put it out there so it's available, but I don't want to be the one deciding on that. I want to make the new fiscal officer have a fair shot. That's what they're gonna have to live with. So make sure they understand what they're getting into, if that makes sense.
So to clarify, we're probably not gonna get a complete understanding of what fire overruns were and admin overruns until the new fiscal officer is appointed in office, and they'll put that together maybe with your assistance during that transition time.
Well, if I get the purchase order request that I'd asked for to get that run off, which she's watching right now, she'll probably run it in the morning. When I have that, she's always very, very good too, so please don't take that as a ding on her. But when I have that, I'll be able to figure out where that $1 million or so that you're looking at, who requested all those funds to be expended. So we'll figure out what they were spent for and why they were spent, and we can figure all that out. And then I guess I could even go to Bob Hauser, who's our architect. It's probably the easiest one to say, hey, which one of these change orders were for the fire department and which one's for the admin. I mean, he's probably the smartest guy about all that stuff. So he might be able to put it on a list and say, this is fire, this is admin, and then we have a total. So,
Alright, so with, the next is gonna be QCI. So it looks like, how much did we pay to QCI this year?
I thought we were at 280 something right now in that ballpark.
280.
That's what I,
Okay. And
Is
so
that about right?
QCI was paid out of the 2199 account, but now I'm hearing that we couldn't pay them out of the 2199 account. So where do we come up with that 280,000? Does that have to come from general fund back into that account? Like, what's the process? Because 2199, correct me if I'm wrong, is the account that's supposed to pay principal and interest on the fire station, and then it was used to pay for QCI.
yeah. We figured that out after the fact that it was paid out of that account. That should have been paid out of there. We're gonna have to figure it out. I mean, that's gonna be part of your, who's it being paid out of? Fire, admin, I don't know, depending on how much. We have to figure that out, how much money we're gonna have from the changes you guys made. You made, what meeting was that, Friday afternoon? Was that Friday or yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Yesterday. That money, that's gonna be out there. I mean, if you make any more changes out there, if we pushed some of the expenditures back to the departments, that frees up a couple $100,000 as well. And those were, and I know we've talked to that, and I've talked to the department heads, that it's a short-term solution. It's not a, 10-year forever thing. It was a, hey, let's reevaluate this at the end of 2026. And I don't mean to sound like this, but we've all worked together on all in 99% of those times, the general fund wasn't out of money. It was the other departments that were, and it's no big deal. They run into issues, and that's just the way it goes. But we all worked to make sure that we got those expenditures taken care of. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, actually, with
Well,
that. I know that
it was hard for those departments to make a decision until we got an actual number. Now, today we get an actual number, and it's closer to 37,000 out of 100,000. And that was the question for 2 months. Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? Is it 200,000? Is it a million? Like, what is the general fund truly short? And we couldn't figure that out until I finally got the data today after, it took us 2 months to get there, to say this is what it was. I don't think that was an unreasonable request, and we could have settled this sooner. But now we're looking at QCI, which is another 275,000 that's gonna have to be paid back. And to clarify a comment from yesterday, the point was not to take money from police, roads, and fire and keep it in admin. That money is part of the whereas statement that was made there, is that as soon as the JED fund comes in, each of those departments get 15,000 back and they're made whole. It was a temporary loan, it would not defund the police, it's not taking money from police, roads, and fire. I wanted that to be very clear, because a lot of people are making comments. This was, I get a call at 3 p.m., Nick, we will not pay our staff today because we don't have the money to pay the staff. All right, we're gonna pay police, we're gonna pay fire, we're gonna pay roads, but we're not gonna pay admin. I'm sorry, I gotta make a decision, an emergency, to make sure that they get paid, because I'm not gonna let somebody not have a paycheck or not be able to get dinner or have a delayed paycheck or whatever it was when there was a solution we could make to solve it.
Well, I disagreed with that, and I had discussions about that, but I had disagreed about the fact that we had that meeting yesterday. I thought that discussion should have been today at the meeting, so we could decide, our payroll's Friday, we get paid on Friday.
But
We
we
pay everybody
historically
early.
paid everybody Wednesday.
But we do, but we pay them on Wednesday so that we have 2 days in the fiscal office in case there's an issue with something. We aren't late with anybody's payments. So that could have been made, we could have fixed it today, it could have been released tomorrow, and everybody got paid in the admin on Thursday, a day earlier than they were supposed to be paid, officially, so.
Well, I had concerns with it, and when the general fund was down to 3,000, it was down to $200 before that.
Sure.
And that's where we had to try to get something together. I just wanted to make sure our staff was paid, and that's why I asked for the emergency meeting.
Sure, that's my number one concern all the time, is to make sure of that. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Ohio Edison might get mad at me or any of those people, but I'll stiff Ohio Edison before I stiff the payroll, is what I'll do. And then I'll catch them up next month and pay them back. So, the biggest goal that we've had the entire 19 years that I've been here is to try to make sure that we had enough money to make payroll and do the best we could do for Brimfield Township. That's what we did, so.
I guess my big concern is moving into 26 is that we shouldn't be running where we have to receive checks that haven't come in, or we have to shell game things. We should be operating at a much higher carryover, a much higher piece. And I think that's the challenge to the next fiscal officer coming in, is how do we get there where we should be there? And once again, just collaborating with some professionals outside of the township to give me guidance. They said, looking at our general fund, we should be sitting on 400,000. That should be the bottom number that we should.
We would have been totally fine with that if we didn't have this building over here and all the other expenditures after that building. We were totally fine before that building started, you know, so, and it'll be totally fine in a year or two when everything gets caught back up again. It's gonna be totally fine, you know, that's just the way it is.
I guess I'm struggling to understand how big this building costs are then, because you're saying 1.1 million from, potentially from fire, 8.2 million from USDA, and now you're saying, well, that's why we got down to $200 in the general fund, is because of the building, so, and we should be at 400, so that's another 400,000, I mean, like the
No,
numbers
you're
are
just,
adding
you're
up.
just talking shortages in the Brimfield Township General Fund. I mean, it's, again, I'm nothing against police or fire, but the police, I funded 7 or 8 years ago, the general fund funded them in November going forward. They had 2 months short of payroll. They couldn't make any of it. We had to get a levy passed. We worked with all that. Everybody worked along the way. It's the general fund stream. We've had more expenditures. We have more payroll in the general fund than we can support. We do.
Well,
You
and I
know?
guess that's my concern then too, and
Sure.
it'll have to do with the next fiscal officer coming in, projections into 26, is can the general fund really support the payroll that we have right now? Can we support what we're doing? Because we should be increasing retention, not
Should
living
the
paycheck
general
to
fund, though, support those services that should be paid by those other departments? I mean, they're the ones that work with those departments, why wouldn't they pay for those services out of their dollars?
I think that's a hard ask when we ask them to project levies and everything else they've done 5, 6, 7 years out, and now we're gonna say, well, we're gonna change it midstream for you, and best of luck, go ask for another levy. I can't see
Well, we're
that.
not changing it midstream. I mean, they were poor. We helped them. We took those funds back. We gave them back to them. You know, that was all part of them passing a levy and doing all that. The general fund's poor now. I mean, it's the same they were in, you know, and we're still paying some bills out there that are departments' bills.
Well, I thought all those got shifted back in the
payroll.
last meeting.
Payroll stuff that's out there, and all those could be paid by those departments as well. We did find out that, you know, the fiscal office, the trustees, all those that work for those departments in other areas, other townships, they share those costs with the police, fire, and roads as well.
Yeah, how widely is that done, though? I mean, there's 1,400 townships plus in Ohio. To pick up the phone and call 2 or 3 and say that's a common practice, I'm not so sure I agree with that.
Yeah.
And once again, I reiterate to police, fire, and roads that they budgeted for a time period, and we asked for levies, and we projected out the work to be done to operate within that, and then the general fund continues to grow, and I think, you know, there's some changes that needed to happen, and we need key roles, but has it gotten too big and unsustainable? And that's just my concern. My big concern is, at the beginning of the year, we're told, yeah, give the cost of living raises, do this, do that, but
Sure.
then
I'm not gonna
on
stick an
May, you
employee.
come back and you say, oh, now I need $100,000.
Do you know how much money we have in the general fund, or in the bank account right now? $3.7 million is how much we have in our checking account.
Right, but that's not earmarked or.
But there's $3.7 million out there in Brimfield Township. There's been times when we've had $10,000 in our checking account.
Right.
What's happening now is that one department, meaning the general fund, has appropriations and expenditures that are more than they can support on their own. The other 3 departments, which have had those issues in the past, don't have those issues at all. They have nice hefty carry forward balances on all of those. So right now, we're sitting at a point where the general fund is poor, yet we're paying expenditures that some other departments could pay. We've paid bills for them in the past. We've done all that.
Nope.
I didn't come back to anybody in those police, fire, and roads departments and say,
And we
hey,
paid
I'm
back a
gonna
large
throw it out
portion of
there.
that, John, when our levy passed.
What's that?
We paid back a large portion of what was lended to us when our levy passed.
You paid the advances back.
Yeah, we did.
Right. All the bills that we paid on your behalf, no one ever paid
But
those
let's
back.
not lose sight of that.
Well, I'm not. The advance gets paid back. None of that was a transfer to you guys.
Well, and that's
Any of the
what-
bills we paid on your behalf
And to
never
say
got
that there's a large balance is because we're managing our budget. We're managing our budget effectively for our department.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you.
I'm
but
not arguing
You
either,
know what? I
John.
paid your bills for a long time too, so maybe that helped your balance get up there. So,
But that's how we built the budget, was based on what the general fund was gonna cover. And so my concern is, there's lots of concerns here, but, you know, we gotta move forward and start to move forward. But, you know, the lack of transparency, the lack of information being shared, the lack of communication is concerning, and I'm hoping as we move forward into the future that changes, because we need to know that these are the problems. We need to be told this. We need to go, you know, when I ask for simple things like, hey, I need a report from the fiscal office, and I'm told, hold all reports because I'm on vacation, and I gotta call the prosecutor's office to get an opinion to get reports back. That's not good. That's not fair.
Yeah, did you
And then
request that, or did the board request those?
I can request that as a
Right,
trustee.
I know,
so
but did the other two board members request that as well?
I don't communicate with them outside of the meeting.
I know.
Because that would be
I
a
know.
sunshine
I
law
understand that.
violation.
I get that.
And I can request that, and
You
if
sure
I have to
can.
call the prosecutor's office, and it is my information.
Sure.
just
I'm not
as
gonna
it is
get
the
into this
public's
with you like I've told you again on the emails that you've sent to me back and forth. I'm not doing this.
Yeah,
So,
because you call me a bully, but let's be
You
honest,
are.
you've been the bully in this township for a
I'm not
long
a
time.
bully at all. I work with
And-
everybody.
Yeah, and we know the things that have happened, and it's frustrating, and now that
Of
I'm trying
course
to get
it is.
information, and I try to get information from you before I had a meeting this week, I
Sure.
asked for a specific document, and
You
guess
did, and
what?
it was like 15 pages long of the same thing that you'd asked for before that.
Yeah, those documents were needed in order to, those documents were needed to get a financial, those documents were needed to get a financial opinion, and they weren't that many pages, and UAN spits them out for other trustees.
Again, as I said before, I'm not gonna keep doing this with you. I'm an elected official the same as you are.
You're right, and I have a right to ask for the information.
You do,
and be
but you're not my
transparent.
boss, so, I
You're
mean,
right.
okay.
So moving forward, you're estimating us to be at a $7,000 shortfall, so we need to talk as a board about what we do in order to balance that and start to put things together. I don't think that decision's gonna happen today, but in my opinion, we need to look at things such as extras need to be canceled, which Holly, I believe we started to do that.
Yes, we already have.
Okay. We need to talk about a cap on attorney payments. Also, travel cancellations have already happened. We don't have any other travel coming up right there. Okay. IT projects are on hold. What about redundancy at the internet at the community and garage? Whatever happened with that?
So that item is honestly just waiting for us to get some funds in to make the switch. So
Okay.
Joe has everything ready. It was just waiting, honestly prioritizing where the funds need to go, and that one wasn't it. So as soon as we get some funding, we'll move forward.
But that'll reduce some monthly costs for us.
It will.
Okay. And then we have ADP, but like I said, I believe it's my opinion that we hold ADP until the fiscal officer and have that discussion. All right, so we still got 2199 accounts out there that we need to come up with. We still need a report back on the fire cost for back payment. And then we're just waiting on that construction Rycon check. I guess I'd want clarification too from the business manager or the fiscal office on that that we can pay the USDA $275,000 out of the fire fund, and it won't negatively impact their budget for this year.
What are you asking me for?
So we just need an update. So we had that $275,000, right? It was supposed to be in a line item, it wasn't there. Now we're gonna pay it when the JED funds come in to the fire fund. Is that $275,000 budgeted into that payment this year for fire, or is that something that's gonna come out of other areas for that this year?
Those dollars were in the contingencies of the fire fund, so they were just in the non-used money. They were still out there.
When I looked at it's the 2191, correct?
I can only use the money that's in the fund, Nick. There's no more that I'm allowed to use than that. So if it was in one category or in another, you can move those internally per our auditor anytime we want. The fund values just can't change. So,
Because the contingencies was sitting at 91,000.
right? Yep, and then I estimated some additional JED dollars that I had underestimated with them to create some of those because the dollar was gonna be higher. So that's where
So
some
you
of that money came.
underestimated the JED by 175, 160.
I underestimated the JED for them by 20%. Because you have to, and this has been my job as well, and it hasn't worked very well now, but it has worked in other areas, is to have a surplus so that we don't run into issues like this. But that's what you do.
I'm just trying to understand where the funding's coming from to make sure that it's done the right way.
Right.
And I just want to clarify, because you had to ask of me, I do not handle where funds come from to pay bills, so I wouldn't be able to respond to that. I don't handle that portion of the budget.
All right. So I'll send it to you and to the fiscal office. Because you help manage the fiscal staff, so. Okay.
Nick, I do have a question for you.
Yes, please.
Or anybody can answer. So is it fair to say that there was, since 2021, there's $1.1 million out of 2191? There's an additional $275,000 going to be taken from 2191. There was $390,000 taken for the initial start of the project, and another $165,000 taken at June of last year. So $1.93 million out of the fire fund.
And that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, right? Like I'm trying to figure out, Did all this come out of your fund? Did it not? If it did, should it have?
Well, we have to see who requested those purchase orders. I mean, that's gonna tell you what it's for, and they should have a reason why they requested them. Fiscal officer just writes them.
So we're gonna see where those purchase orders came from.
Yep.
And I guess that's gonna have to be held until the next meeting so that we can, because there's two separate issues going. There's the fire issue and then there's the general fund piece. But it sounds like the general fund, with the recent resignation, is gonna balance itself if we have no emergency come in. And then, John, you're saying you underestimated JED funding, so really that may balance itself.
Exactly. It would have taken care of itself, but that wasn't brought up anyway.
Okay.
It always works itself out.
All right. Any other questions for fiscal? If not, I will move us into the good of the order. Any comments for the good of the order? I will say that under the good of the order, Earl, I did hear your comments. Let me get some information back from zoning on that. And then, Holly, can you put that on the agenda for the next meeting under administration? And then we'll have that at the next meeting. So if you have any questions, let me know before that meeting. We'll get that settled and figured out as quickly as we can. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Sue?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion passed. We're out at 7:20 PM.